What's going on, man? We here. Let's get this one started. We ain't gonna waste no time. Wilma. Man, we here. Let's get this show on the road. Like I told you, YouTube, send my notifications out. Let's get it. You already know we with it. True Warrior Scholar. What's popping, brother? True Warrior Scholar in the building, my brother. Yeah, man. Let's get it. So the conversation is black fatigue, right? The reality of it is this, man. You can talk about black fatigue, this and that. Listen, man. I think everybody's sick of everybody. I think you got people who are sick of Mexicans. You got people who are sick of Somalians. You got people who are sick of white folks. So to say black fatigue while ignoring white people's foolery and degeneracy is straight up hypocrisy, right? You don't see black people going around, you know, blaming up churches. And if you know what I mean, blam, pow, pow. You don't see black men running around, you know what I mean, blamming up churches, but you do see white men doing it, right? 2023, there was a shooting in Buffalo, New York at Tops grocery store. And Tops grocery store is in a black community. A white guy went in the grocery store and unloaded 50 rounds and laid 10 people down. Unalive, 10 people, just because he felt like doing it. You don't see black men going to grocery stores where white people shop at and say, you know what, I'm going to go to this grocery store in a white community and unload my assault rifle. You don't see black people doing that. When black people harm somebody, usually it's somebody that they got, it's usually somebody that they have some type of street beef with. Black people don't go around shooting up neighborhoods because they dislike white folks so much. No, white people do crimes like that. White people commit crimes of that nature. Well, I don't like black people, so I'm going to go to a black church and just unload on everybody. So we got white fatigue as well, right? When you think about pedophiles and child pornography, who's at the top of that list? White people. White people top the list when it comes to child pornography and pedophilia and things of that nature. Come on, man. But you want to talk about black fatigue while ignoring degenerate behavior from your own community? Really? This is what we doing? Foolery fatigue. Foolery fatigue. Hit the like button. It ain't nothing. Show some love to the show, man. I think you guys already know what time it is, man. I've been doing this for a minute consistently. Straight tomfoolery. Now, this was a panel right here, and I believe it was a good panel. You know, some of the brothers up there made some good points. Pearly came up there with her talking points, her stats as usual. And yeah, man, we're gonna dive into it, man. It's fluid. The game flows. You already know how the story goes. So I'm gonna give it a few more seconds, and then we're gonna play the clip, and we're gonna dive right into the conversation. And we're gonna call out this hypocrisy. We're gonna call out this buffoonery. 100%. Black fatigue. White people got a lot of nerves talking about fatigue. Nobody has harmed more human beings in this country and gotten away with it like white folks did. Let's be honest. Name a race who's gotten away with more crimes than whites in America. I'll wait. You can't name one other race who's committed so many crimes and gotten away with it. You can't name one race who's topped white folks. White folks are number one when it comes to getting away with stuff and never being held accountable for it. Well, the black men who pedestalize her are Sambos, they're straight clowns. I blame the black men who pedestalize her. That's what I do. You know, I'm not going to say that I don't know, because in reality, I do know. I do know. I mean, if you go back to the beginning of this country, nobody has harmed people and gotten away with it on the same level that whites have. No other race has. So to listen to this black fatigue is just, it's hilarious. It's hypocrisy. Whites in America have created a system that benefits them. They created a system that has protected them in this country for centuries. That's not to say that white people don't go to jail and get held accountable, but if we're judging everything on a large scale and we say, who's gotten away with more stuff in this country than white folks? Nobody, if we're being honest. Let's get into this clip, though. I ain't gonna waste no time.
People have a habit of stealing our words. So just like woke, and just like thug, and just like ghetto, and just like all of these other words, they just have a habit of not being able to find words themselves.
Like Illa said, you're just
black men are 20
you're not really spewing out any facts.
Black men are
over 50%. No.
Black men are 20 times more violent than white men.
That's what I'm saying. You're showing.
Hold on.
She said the interruption. She should have started interrupting people, because we wouldn't interrupt nobody.
So your statistics are flawed, like all of the rest of YT statistics.
How are they flawed?
Because statistically, black men are not more violent than white men. It's just not a stated fact. Black people live under a system of white supremacy.
The majority of black men that's in prison are in there for non-violent crimes. The majority of them are in prison for non-violent crimes. I'm talking about black men. And I'm not saying that black men don't commit violent crimes. That's not what I'm saying. But the majority of us that's in prison, we're not in there for violent crimes. We're just not. Hit the like button and support the show.
So to sit on this panel, Pearl, and be disingenuous and act like that doesn't exist, you lying.
Hey man, it's getting spooky. I just came across something called black fatigue, and basically it's white Americans are sick of our shit.
I got news for you. Black Americans are sick of your shit. Black people are sick of black people.
And look at this clown, man. It's like, y'all listen to anybody. You got white people who are sick of white people. Who took out Charlie Kirk? A white person. It was a lot of white people fed up with Charlie Kirk. So you have white people who are fed up with white people. It ain't just black people who are fed up with black people. You got Latino people who are fed up with Latino people. Why? Because a lot of Latinos voted for Donald Trump, and a lot of Latinos just don't understand that. They're pretty pissed off at the other Latinos who voted for Trump. So let's not make this a black thing, like it's just isolated to black people. Get this clown off of my screen. Oh, sideshow Bob looking at, man, oh, sideshow looking Bob at.
Shit. Basically, society is saying that they're tired of how black people are.
Angry Man is a clown, straight clown. Everybody's fed up with everybody at this point. Liberal white people are fed up with conservative white people. Black people are fed up with, I guess you would say, so-called ghetto black people. White people are fed up with rednecks.
Blaming things that have happened to us historically in the past, and they are also now adding different things that they have seen in society to that behavior as well, like loud mouthing or maybe, you know, using certain words or certain behaviors in public.
Black fatigue seems to be growing.
And Angry Man look like Sideshow Bob, sitting up there with that keg belly, smoking on that cigar, looking like Scrooge McDuck from DuckTales. Slash Sideshow Bob looking at. And black folks are scared of black folks, man. How y'all listen to this clown? He's one of the same guys who co-signed Pearly things. He's part of the problem.
Especially within the Black community. There's a growing frustration within certain behaviors, and more people are starting to speak up about it.
White people, Black people, Hispanic people are saying we have Black fatigue because of the behavior of some Black people.
It's not racist to call Black people out for their behavior and what they're doing to society. And it's finally catching up to y'all.
When you hear black, every time somebody made an attempt on Donald Trump's life, it was a white man who did it. Every time somebody tried to take out a president in this country, it was a white man who did it. A white man took out Charlie Kirk. A white man shot up a church in Michigan and then burned it down. We could easily say we are tired of white people.
Fatigue, what does it mean to you?
I mean, I understood the original, definition of it. I think that was more in line, but it does sound like people are just annoyed with, maybe being inundated with the complaints of the community. Like they said, they're kind of building on this new narrative. So I can't say I disagree wholeheartedly. There's some truth to that.
Oh, and when I'm talking about that, I just mentioned a church that was shot up. It was a white man who did that back in October. I believe it was October. It was a white man who shot up that church in Michigan and then burned it down. Yes, a white guy. A white guy, 2023, Jacksonville, Florida, shot up a Dollar General full of black people because he hated black folks that much. And nobody in that Dollar General did a thing to him. He had so much hatred for black folks. Yeah, man, we got white fatigue. Florida State University earlier this year was shot up by a white guy. In Minnesota, I believe it was Minnesota, a Catholic school for children, a white guy shot that place up. White fatigue. A white guy shot up a restaurant in North Carolina, unalived 3 or 4 people. It was a white guy who did it. It was mighty funny. She never talked about the crimes that her people commit.
It's fair to hear people out, but I know it's new. Well, I'm sure we'll expound upon it, but that's what I have.
The internet been going in and out, and I don't know. Sometimes it has its good and bad days. Come on, Cox, fix y'all internet.
You.
It means what?
I might play some of those videos today. I think I'm gonna play some of those videos for this show, Cat 6.
Miss Winters described it as it's the erosion of our mind, body, and our spirit from systemic racism and daily microaggressions and lack of sustainable racial progress. So I don't like that they change terms that means something for us to focus on. It gives other races of people who may be ignorant or avoidant of our issues that they may have directly caused. To piggyback on that, ignorance is ignorance across all races of people. We all have degenerates of every race and culture. We don't respect or accept those. That's not the highlight of who we are, and I don't think that's what we need to focus on. Black fatigue is what it stands for and what it will always be, and that's what we need to focus on. Why are we physically, mentally, and emotionally exhausted? And let's not focus on the ignorance that they want to keep highlighting. Everybody will be sick of that. That's obvious. Let's just stay on the foundation and build off of that.
I mean, for me, it's the initial definition. It's Black people being sick and tired of always being classed in a box, whether it be in America or all across the world as a result of colonization and, you know, white inferiority. But typical, as usual, white people have a habit of stealing our words. So just like woke, and just like thug, and just like ghetto, and just like all of these other words, they just have a habit of not being able to find words themselves. So they take words that we use to describe and explain our experiences, and then they try to steal it to be their own definitions of something that is not the original definition of the word. So I think that Black people should not allow them to again take the word just like they did woke. It has a definition. Like, for example, I have Karen fatigue, right? I do. Genuinely, I cannot stand seeing them crash out in Walmarts and Targets all across America. But somehow, we're not, I mean, like, we all have fatigue with the other race, but find your own word. You see how I just made that up? I didn't have to steal something that's within the white community and make it something it's not. So yeah, it's still the original definition for me.
So when I think of Black fatigue, I think that people are kind of sick of Black people's behavior and excuses for the behavior. And I would say some of the behavior is, this is not all Black people, as I always have to say with these kind of conversations, but I would say these are some of the things that people are fatigued of.
Yeah, they're not original at all. They steal everything. Black fatigue, and she ain't gonna talk about none of these violent crimes that white people just committed. If you look over the past 2 months and look at all the crimes that white people have committed, and she ain't gonna say a word about it, she's a hypocrite. And this is what I mean when I say the black men who pedestalize her, you guys are pathetic. Seriously. You guys shouldn't have no Black fans or no Black supporters. You guys are poor excuses for Black men over there caping for pearly things. You guys know who you are.
People committing more crime, a lack of basic decorum, a lack of good faith, at times a lack of work ethic, basic manner.
You got an idiot in my comment section talking about stop crying. Tell white people to stop crying about Black fatigue, you dummy. Huh? So white people should be able to say whatever they want to say, and we don't have the right to say nothing. Man, if you don't get your stupid, if you don't get your dumb, you know what, out of my chat, coming up in there with that retarded stuff, why don't you tell white people to stop crying about Black fatigue, you dummy? How about that?
Sexual behavior in public, dressing overly provocative, taking advantage of white people's good nature, gaslighting attitude. I could give stories where personally this has happened to me at work, in sports, in cities, and in friend groups. Somebody said microaggressions. I don't really know what that means, but I think that's kind of just an excuse for poor behavior. So
the original definition, I think that what we're witnessing is the fatigue of just ignorant behavior that all races carry. You know what I'm saying? So I think to just coin it as Black fatigue, like what do we call what white people do? Is what's the word for that? Would it just be called, hey, we're just tired of ignorance, we're just tired of, or is it white fatigue? Like, to me, Black fatigue is what it originally means. But it's just funny to hear white people talk about the side effects of what their people have done to people, and then talk about, hey, I don't know what's wrong with them. Like, how do our people have been disrespected when we behaved at our best? When you look into history, when we were getting dirt, when people get, you know what happened to us, all the violent atrocities, the redlining, those people wasn't sagging their pants. Those people wasn't rapping gangster lyrics. Those people were going to church. They was conservative. Their pants was buckled up. They was going to church and all that. And they was blowing them shits up. So
now you heard what he just said, didn't I? I've been saying that, right? Now, I don't know if he heard my content or he just came to the same understanding, but I've been saying that for months. Maybe, matter of fact, I've been saying that for a couple of years. I said, when black people went to church every day and there was no such thing as ghetto and thug culture, white people still firebombed their churches. White people still lynched them. We could argue that white people hated blacks more when there was no such thing as ghetto culture. So when they use ghetto culture as a reason to be racist, they are gaslighting you. White people have always hated blacks. When black people, let's go back to the 1920s. Let's go back to the 1920s. There was no drug dealing in our communities. There was no such thing as thug culture. Black people went to work. They went to church. They didn't bother nobody. And guess what? White folks still hated us even back then. So don't let them gaslight you by saying the only reason that the white people are racist is because of black folks' behavior. You're lying. You're pathetic.
when I hear white people, we were getting when people get you know what happened to us, all the violent atrocities, the redlining, those people wasn't sagging their pants, those people wasn't rapping gangster lyrics. Those people were going to church, they was conservative, their pants was buckled up, they was going to church and all that, and they was blowing them shits up. So when I hear white people, the most violent, the most aggressive, the most pillaging people to ever walk the face of this planet, actually call out people who are just showing the side effects of years of mental degradation, social degradation, economic chicanery.
Yeah,
you talk. I know you get triggered. It's gonna be a long night. Get ready.
No, I'm not triggered. I thought we could go back and forth.
Nobody interrupted you. Get your seatbelt ready. It's gonna be a long night.
Overreaction. I was talking about.
No one look at you. This see. Like you can't even help it. You can't even help it. We ain't even get started yet. See, you ain't never. You just get your popcorn ready.
Now, how you gonna tell somebody how to behave and you keep cutting this man up? You keep cutting him up, and what he said is 100% correct. White people hated us when we went to church every day, and there was no such thing as thug culture. They hated us more back then. Blacks wasn't gang banging, they wasn't thugging in the streets, and whites hated us more back then. I have the evidence to prove it. All you got to do is study history. Look at the 1920s. Look how much whites hated blacks. We didn't bother anybody. We stuck to ourselves. We kept to ourselves, and guess what? Whites still had a lot of hatred for us. So this is nonsense. It's see-through. This is a dead argument. What you see is a bunch of white hypocrites talking about black fatigue while ignoring degenerate behavior and criminality from their own community.
But like I was saying, right? Because we got literature. We ain't gonna just talk from just our thoughts. I hope you got some literature on your side, Miss Pearl. Pearl. I hope you got some literature, because I'm not gonna just speak from my thoughts, my opinions. I'm gonna quote from literature. So what I'm saying is, I'm tired of ignorance of all races. But to hear white people go out their way to co-sign this, when most of black people's issues, whether it be the drug issue, whether it be their issues with relationships, whether it be their issues with economics, whether it be the hijacking of their arts and the hijacking of putting negative images as far as music. We don't control media. We don't control the major networks. So for anything black people to do that we do negatively to be broadcasted to the world has to be funded, co-signed, and endorsed by a European. So to hear these same people talk about the things they've done to these people, and then when they have the nerve to show the side effects of that, say, hey, I don't know what they're talking about, just shows you what we're dealing with. So black fatigue is no such thing as black fatigue. It's just the fatigue of just ignorance of American culture, and it's eroding black people because we've been attached to most of these atrocities the most. So excuse us for the fact that we don't want to talk to you like we used to. We don't want to be as gracious as we used to, because when our parents was and our grandparents was going to church and saying, yes, master, yes, boss, yeah, you would blow their heads off. There was a story of a man, and I'm gonna shut up. There's a story of a man, I forgot his name, but there was a story. I can tell you about what happened in my job today.
If you go back to 1920 in Florida, Ocoee, Florida, July Perry was a sharecropper. Them black folks was minding their business and they went out to vote. They got attacked by the Ku Klux Klan just for voting. not because they were ghetto, not because they were thugging in the community. Look up the Ocoee, Florida massacre. I believe it was 1920. These were productive black people. They were building their own communities. They were sharecroppers. They was conducting business. And on November 1st, I believe 1920, July Perry organized his people in that community. He organized them to go out and vote, right? And when they did that, they was attacked by law enforcement and clans and mobs of white people, white supremacists. And none of those whites who underlied all those blacks in Ocoee, Florida, none of them were brought to justice. None of them were ever held accountable. So white folks are the last group of people who need to talk about accountability. Nobody has gotten away with harming more people in this country than white folks. The hypocrisy.
There was a story of a man, I think his name was Booker, I forgot his last name. This was in the 50s, not that long ago. So let's not act like history don't matter, because we celebrate 4th of July every year. We celebrate past the Civil War and 7 years ago, Ulysses Grant, all these old forefathers, we acknowledge them every year. So the history means a whole lot to this country. He worked at a restaurant for white people. And he said, hey, I try to do my best. I be nice. They call me the N-word. They talk to me crazy. I'm just trying to take care of my family. I'm trying to take care of my kids. At nighttime, I got my own restaurant and now I work it myself. So this man works for white people in the daytime, Mississippi, and at nighttime, he works at his own restaurant. So at that time, black people, we don't have, even now, but in the 50s, you think, who owns cameras? Who owns media networks? So we don't. So even the people who interviewed him was white. But guess what happened to that man? They killed him days later, just because he had the nerve to tell white people who asked him, well, how white people treat you, just for him to get killed by white people. So I don't want to hear no white person talk about black fatigue. Now, if you want to talk about the degradation of America, you want to talk about the lack of literacy in youth, you want to talk about just drugs in general, just immoral culture of Western culture, I'm all for that. But don't blame it on black people, because we're only doing what was done to us.
Again, I would say
he made some strong points. White people have pillaged, they have colonized, they have destroyed whole cities. They wiped out whole tribes of people. They're the last people who need to be talking about who's violent. The hypocrisy of these people. White folks think that we forgot about history. And like I said, I ain't got to go back 50 to 60 years. I just told you about something that happened in 2023. That was a massacre in Buffalo, New York, Tops grocery store. That was only 2023. That white guy underlied 10 innocent black people who ain't never done nothing to him. 2023, another white boy, Jacksonville, Florida, went into a grocery store full of black people, unloaded his assault rifle. He was a white supremacist. The guy in New York was a racist, redneck white supremacist. Dylan Roof in 2015, 10 years ago, went into a church in Charleston, South Carolina, and unalived 10 innocent church people. But you never hear these white folks talk about the crimes that they people commit. Charlie Kirk was unalived by his own kind, not black folks. If Charlie Kirk spent more time focusing on the violent criminals in his own community, just maybe he would be alive. Charlie Kirk was so focused on black folks and what we was doing to the point to where he ignored the threat that was coming from his own people. And unfortunately, a white man unalived him.
even that interaction, I was very.
White people asked him, well, how white people treat you, just for him to get killed by white people. So I don't want to hear no white person talk about black fatigue. Now, if you want to talk about the degradation of America, you want to talk about the lack of literacy in youth, you want to talk about just drugs in general, just immoral culture of Western culture, I'm all for that. But don't blame it on black people, because we're only doing what was done to us.
Again, I would say even in that interaction, I was very polite to you, where you automatically assumed the worst. So that kind of reiterates you. That kind of reiterates.
See, what makes Pearl so fake, she's not going to acknowledge anything that he said. She's just going to gaslight and try to move the goalposts. Everything he said was true. And not once did she acknowledge, well, you know what, you're right about that. That's actually true. She's too fake to do that. And this is why I say the black men who supported her are the black men who supported Pearlie are poor excuses for black men. Those guys are truly pathetic. They really are. This man dropped nothing but facts, and not once did she say, you know what, that's true. But she wants us to acknowledge the nonsense that she says about us. But when a black man gives her nothing but historical facts, she don't want to agree to it. She want to just move the goalposts and talk about something else. But this is what white people do.
What I was talking about. The next argument I'm going to go through. So I'm going to,
No, but what did I assume?
I'm going to keep going. That's going to be gaslighting right there. So gaslight. Okay. Pretend you weren't doing what you did, which is totally fine. I'm a big girl. I can handle it. But
no, you can't.
Example of the black fatigue. And there, you're saying you're blaming it on history.
He didn't blame nothing on history. What he said is you have to think every action causes a reaction. So if black people feel a certain way about white folks, it's based on what the white folks have done to us throughout the history of this country. If you study the history of this country and you see what white folks have done, if you see what they have done to us, we are just responding to a lot of those things. Just like I brought you up to speed, 2023, Buffalo, New York, Tops grocery store. Black people are reactionary. We didn't wake up one day and say, we're just going to feel a certain way about white folks. But the white folks did wake up one day and say, you know what, we just have hatred for black folks because we were taught how to have it. We were taught to have this hatred towards black people. Right? This is why I can't deal with a lot of white folks. This woman is fake. He didn't blame our behavior on history. What he pretty much said is for every action, there's going to be a reaction. White people can't throw rocks and hide their hand and pretend like they don't understand why black people feel a certain way about their people. You can't throw rocks and hide your hand. It don't work like that. We remember what you did 50 years ago. We remember what you did in 2023. We remember the things that you just done this year. So we can talk about what you did in recent times all the way back to ancient times. It's no difference. There's no difference.
Okay.
Example of the black fatigue. Then there, you're saying you're blaming it on history. I just think that goes back to white people are kind of tired of hearing excuses.
Of course you are.
Yeah, and
of course you are, but why wouldn't we be?
And we're tired of hearing your lies. You're pathetic. So all you black men who went to work with Pearl, who supported her, you guys are pathetic excuses. You are poor excuses for black men.
As an adult, you are responsible for your own behavior. So if you do something rude, or if you commit a crime, you are responsible.
And that's why we have black men in prison. They're being held accountable for the crimes they committed. The stats and the numbers show you that black men serve more prison time for the same crimes that white men commit. So don't talk this buffoonery like black people are not held accountable. That's one of the biggest lies ever told. We only 14% of the population, and we make up a large percentage of the prison population. So what does that mean? That means that we're held accountable for the crimes we commit. Shut up, you sound foolish. If anybody's held accountable, and if anybody gets held accountable in this country, it is black Americans, foundational black Americans. They burned down our cities, they burned down our businesses, they burned down churches, all because they had so much hatred for us. And none of those white people were ever held accountable. The people who unalived Emmett Till, none of those whites were ever brought to justice or ever held accountable. The whites who bombed Tulsa, Oklahoma were never brought to justice, never held accountable. The massacre in Ocoee, Florida, none of those whites were ever held accountable. So when white people talk accountability, stop the hypocrisy. Nobody has gotten away with more violent crimes than white folks in this country. If you don't believe me, study the history.
Responsible. Nobody else is responsible for it.
Absolutely. But that's not a black crime. It's not a black
White
issue.
people commit more crime in this country than black people. So let's if we're gonna speak facts, let's really stop talk statistics and stop just blowing, just saying out anything, because like Illa said, you're just
black men are 20
you're not really spewing out any facts.
Black men are
because over 50%. No. Let me
black
speak.
men are 20 times more violent than white men.
That's what I'm saying. You're showing.
Hold on.
She said off the interruption. She shouldn't start interrupting people because we weren't interrupting nobody. But you want to interrupt, so now you're flowing off the flow of the flow, which is what they do in real life. Go off the flow of everything.
Hold on.
She throwing up racist talking points.
Hold on. Let's just do one at a time.
Felonies. 51% of arrests for murder in 2019 were black. Black women are 7% of the population, 39% of abortions. Felony conviction rate for black individuals is 61%. Black people are 13% of the population, but are incarcerated 38% of the time. 48% of black adults are obese. 54% of black women are obese. 1 in 4 black children born in 1990 had an imprisoned parent by age 14. Yeah, so if you want facts, there are some facts. Go ahead.
You notice how she refused to acknowledge any wrongdoing that her people has done to us. Oh, well, you know, that's maybe so. Yeah. I mean, maybe so. Yeah. I admit that whites commit crimes too. It's just not as much as blacks. Whites don't commit as much crime as blacks. You black men who supported this pilgrim, you guys are poor excuses for black men. Shout out to Minister Jack. Minister Jack called it a pilgrim because that's exactly what she is, a pilgrim.
I would like to know, how do you quantify black men being more violent? I think that there's statistics, but how do you go and measure that? Like, without just the numbers, how do we go through our daily lives and observing just reality that black men, just by default, just by being black, are more violent than all other males walking around? How do we quantify that?
I would say, number one, the data reflects it. And also my real lived experience. I would say that is what I have seen in real life. So
I haven't seen a black man be violent in my years of experience. So what are we talking about?
Okay.
It's 43 million black Americans that live here. So your statistics are flawed, like all of the rest of YT statistics.
How are they flawed?
Because statistically, black men are not more violent than white men.
That's
just not a stated fact.
They're 20.
No.
Nobody has waged war on other races like the American white man, like white folks have done across the world. Nobody has colonized and pillaged communities on the same level that white Americans have, white men in particular. Nobody's more violent than the American white man. Study history. White folks then wiped out whole villages and whole communities. These people are hypocrites. Shout out to the black folks on this panel for standing on business. I appreciate y'all. The pilgrim tried to come up there with that nonsense.
No, that's just not stated fact.
Where are your facts?
They literally colonized an entire civilization. White men.
Shout out to Tammy. Shout out to the ladies in the chat. Shout out to the brothers. Make sure that you guys bless that like button.
Black men are not more violent than white men.
That's
just not a stated fact.
They're 20.
No. That's just not a stated fact.
Where are your facts?
They literally colonized an entire civilization. White men are inherently violent, right? That's why we have all of this school stuff going on. We're not doing that.
Do you feel safer in a white neighborhood or a black neighborhood?
I feel more safer in a black neighborhood.
Well,
that's why I live on property in one.
God help you.
Yeah, I do. I don't feel safe around white people.
Why don't you bring a Pearly? Your people have sundown towns where blacks have became missing and never to be found. You know, it's mighty funny that white people never talk about these sundown towns where they unalive innocent black people for just passing through. But she'll never talk about that because Pearly is a pilgrim. You black men who supported Pearly things are truly pathetic. You're poor excuses for black men. Yes, King Supreme said it.
Like, I'm scared of you right now. I'm afraid. Because it's because of the white fatigue. Because, and to answer JR's question, I believe that black fatigue is the original answer. And I believe that they try to flip it, just like they try to crowbar their way into using the N-word by trying to tell people that that's okay because they now want to say it. No, it's for us and it's by us. Y'all can't say that either. And y'all can't try to hide.
She already got handled. Old boy said, old boy in the blue. And this is something that I've said many times on my platform. Pearly said whites hate blacks because of the way they behave. We already debunked that. Listen, white people hated black folks before there was a such thing as a ghetto culture, before there were street gangs in our community, before you had drug dealers on the corner selling dope and gang banging. White people hated us way before thug and ghetto culture existed. So they can't blame their hatred on, they can't say that they hate us because of our degenerate behavior. They can't say that. They're gaslighting you at that point. Study the history of this country. Go back to the early 1900s when black folks just went to work in church every day and white people still burned our churches down, still lynched people and was still burning down communities. So your behavior has nothing to do with their hatred. They hate you just for being black. History proves that.
Term that the lady wrote a book about it. You know what I'm saying? So it just goes to show the colonizer mindset that you guys have in your brain. It's literally disgusting. And it's sickening, right? It's like almost like a mental illness to me, because there is no way that y'all just really came in and hijacked this term in an effort to humiliate or talk down on black people. When you pull up those statistics, do you know that black people patent over 50,000 inventions in this country? Do you know that we built institutions? We actually built this country from scratch.
No,
when you bringing up statistics,
what institutions did you?
Oh, we did. Before black people did the labor in this country, America, there was nothing here. What institutions did you build? You guys built your institutions off of the free labor because you guys got wealthy off of our free labor, and that is how you guys built your institutions, right? You used the free labor that you got from us to get wealthy in this country. That's exactly what happened, Miss Pilgrim. What institutions did you guys build? You didn't build anything. Who did the labor? We did all the labor. Do you know how many inventions white people took? Listen, do you know how many things we created and invented and the slave master took credit for it because you're property? So if you're property, they'll take credit for everything that you've done. This is a known fact. Just study history. This Pilgrim had the nerve to say, what institutions? We built a lot of things and you guys stole it. We built Black Wall Street and you guys burned it down because you were jealous of our progress. You didn't want to see black people pass down generational wealth, so you did everything in your power to sabotage it. And that's exactly what they did. The government, law enforcement, they allowed racist white supremacists to destroy Black Wall Street. And nobody was held accountable. Nobody was brought to justice. Why? Because the government gave white supremacists the okay to sabotage our communities.
We know our history. We know who we are, we know our history, and we know we've been here, and we still here. Like 47% of Black Americans live in the middle class. So that little small, degenerate class of people that you like to brag about and y'all like to put on the forefront, we don't like them either. They get shunned by us too. So this whole concept of Black fatigue doesn't really exist. Like Illa said, it doesn't exist. That's just a people fatigue.
And then you got to look at it like this. When slavery was over, we dealt with Jim Crow for 100 years. Jim Crow was just another form of slavery, putting restrictions on you, telling you can't go here, you can't go there, you can't get an education here. So Jim Crow was just another form of slavery minus the plantation, but it was still systematic oppression, systematic white supremacy. That's exactly what Jim Crow was. So you abolish slavery, and then we go into Jim Crow. Jim Crow lasted for 100 years, a whole century. White folks ain't never went through anything in this country. White people ain't never been enslaved in this country or oppressed in this country. White folks ain't never went through Jim Crow and had to deal with that. No, they haven't dealt with anything. White people have nothing to complain about. They haven't went through anything. Name a struggle that white folks went through in this country. I'll wait. In the United States of America, what struggle have white people went through? Name one.
We built this country from scratch. So when you bringing up statistics,
what institutions did you?
Let them finish talking.
We know our history. We know who we are. We know our history, and we know we've been here, and we still here. Like 47% of Black Americans live in the middle class. So that little small, degenerate class of people that you like to brag about and y'all like to put on the forefront, we don't like them either. They get shunned by us too. So this whole concept of Black fatigue doesn't really exist. Like Illa said, it doesn't exist. That's just a people fatigue.
But you can't tell people how to. You can't tell
like any of those things. So
you can't tell people.
Hold on.
We live under a system of white supremacy.
They need to do a better job at managing these panels.
It's more to it. It's more of a community.
They need to do it. They need to do a better job at managing these panels, because the guy who hosts this show, he allows people to just run their mouth. At some point, you got to mute people, right? At some point, you got to mute people, especially when they continue to overtalk. Come on, brother, learn how to run your platform. Make people show some respect. Don't let people come to your platform and just do whatever they want to do. One microphone at a time. That's what you should have told them. And if they don't respect the rules, you boot them to set an example.
Community, education, family, a nuclear family. So there's more factors, and just the color black fatigue. There's more factors into it.
So again, you can.
So okay, are you saying?
Okay,
then there's an ethnicity thing that's unique to black people?
Yeah, I would say, yeah. And this is just my personal experience.
Okay, got it. So then it's just unique to black people. That's what I wanted to know. You want to get to the ideology of people. Let me ask Pearl one question. Hey, Pearl, question for you. So, do you think where do you think like crime would happen in a rich, speaking of white people, right? A rich, like say they're making a wealthy white family. Am I muted or no?
No, we can hear you. Go ahead.
I just want to say, I know where you're going with this. I'm going to just drop in one stat, but white people commit the most white collar crimes. So for her to get on this panel and say they don't steal, they steal. I work with them. They steal a lot. Okay, I've been in
I would agree with you. I would agree. Why can't we have a conversation about black crime without bringing up white people?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
I wouldn't disagree. I wouldn't disagree. But the challenge
would that be considered white fatigue?
When you say something about white people, I would say I am fatigued with some stuff with white people. Like,
no, but is white fatigue a thing?
White women transitioning their kids, that's really annoying. I'm like, why are we doing that, ladies? But I'm not going to get triggered and pretend it doesn't happen. The difference is when I say a stat that's negative about black people, you guys gaslight me and pretend it's not real.
We're not gaslighting.
We didn't deny none of it. But go ahead, Cooley.
Yeah, I just want to ask a question because I just
experience, like I said, and it's 43 million of us. So it just sounds disingenuous and illiterate. It doesn't sound smart for you to say the 20 black people I've encountered, I've had these experiences, because I grew up in a predominantly black neighborhood. And I can tell you my credential. I've interviewed, and no white people.
Cool. That's where let Cooley run.
I mean, if we're being honest, we got to be honest about black people too. The thing is, the black community, we've been hearing it. Like I've been hearing black people need to get themselves together and pull themselves up by their bootstraps since I was a youngin. So we've always heard this from white people. It's nothing new to us, but I do think that black people, there are a lot of effeminate people in black culture, and we need to get away with that. We need a patriarch in the home. But the question that I was posing to you, because I just want to get to your thinking. So if there's a wealthy, where do you think more crime would happen? In a wealthy white neighborhood or in like a trailer park white neighborhood? Where do you think more crime would happen?
Probably in the trailer park neighborhood.
In a trailer park, right?
Yeah.
Now, when you're speaking about, now let's go to black people. If you're looking at a wealthy black family or the hood black family, where do you think more crime would happen?
Do you know what? It would probably be in the hood, but from my personal experience, even when black people move into white neighborhoods,
just terrible.
A lot of time. No, I'm being for real. I lived in
Pearl, to answer the question, you would say that you would see a difference there. So since there's a difference between white wealth and white poverty and the crime rate would be higher within the white poverty, and it would be the same within the black wealthy class and the black poor class. You would see more crime where there's less income. This is true. So if we just take that into account, well, yeah, why it isn't a race factor. It's more to it. It's more of a community, education, family, a nuclear family. So there's more factors, and just the color black fatigue. There's more factors into it.
So you can.
So okay, are you saying
okay?
Then there's an ethnicity thing that's unique to black people?
Yeah, I would say. Yeah. And this is just my personal experience.
Okay, got it. So this is just unique to Black people. That's what I wanted to know. You see, you want to get to the ideology of people.
Let's let her respond. Let's let her respond, and then we'll get Ms. Pearl.
All I can, you can, slice the numbers to say whatever you want in some cases. But there's just a lack of basic decorum that even when Black people come into white spaces, a lot of times they lack. As I said earlier, it's an attitude thing, a lack of work ethic thing. It's not all, because again, I've met Black people that don't do this. It's not every single one. But just as a group, balance of probabilities, you're going to get more of an attitude, lack of good faith, more emotional is just the trends that I've noticed, even on this panel. But not you, Cooley. You've been great. So
go ahead, Ms. Pearl.
Of course.
Go ahead.
So there was a lot that was said. I want to make us aware that when we're talking about media and what we're seeing, our stats, where we're getting our information, your statistics are from the FBI and the Bureau of Justice. Okay, what I basically want to say is those people have been and will always be against Black people. They're always going to perpetuate a fraud. They're always going to convey things that are not all the way real. I could go on there and speak about stats, and I think you're heavier on stats, Pearl, but you've been on another platform what's already kind of been exposed that you've publicly stated that statistics are not always factual. So I know that you kind of lead with that, but you can give misleading information. You can give information that has been delivered to you.
I can explain that.
Let them talk. Yeah.
I know you mentioned earlier you didn't know what microaggressions are. You're doing now, like you're interrupting. It's very subtle, but it's very intentional. It's a slight and it's an insult. Like you won't let me finish this if you're trying to epistemically take my knowledge away or my stance in terms of like you just might like you said, I should just camera down right now. That's insulting. If I'm speaking to you, that's as if you're turning your back to me. But I'll continue. I'll speak to people who are relevant to the conversation and who are actually.
Well, he said Cooley must be the what of the panel. Cooley, I don't have nothing bad to say about Cooley. Let Cooley do his thing, man.
Listening and want to add value to our community and our culture and help us evolve. See, I was just playing a little bit, but I'm gonna take the gloves off. So when she was speaking about Blacks taking advantage of white people's kindness, she said that once, and she also said that we take advantage. Hey, how you doing? You take advantage of white people's nature. I don't understand how you could speak about white people's nature here in the U.S. Those same people who continuously oppress us under colonialism, patriarchy, and capitalism, which can't literally operate those three motors without sexism and racism of some form. So I don't understand why or how you think we would be taking advantage of a person's nature who are literally oppressing, suppressing, and depressing us. That's why we're having this issue and this conversation about Black fatigue. It's
yes, hit that like button. You know it ain't nothing
that white supremacy has created. And until you acknowledge that and culturally justify why you won't let us have our way and be alone and do, because in Tulsa, Oklahoma, we were fine in 1921. We were also good in the 60s too. We were good before you guys came and stopped our movement for human rights and started the feminine movement. We were always fine. We don't need you all. But when you speak like this, it speaks as if you come from a place of white ignorance and white avoidance. It's like you pretend you don't know these issues exist, and then you don't want to talk about them. You kind of do both of those.
She's right about that. She'll pretend like it's not true, or she'll pretend like she don't know about it. Right? That's what she do. Right? Yeah.
So before you kind of interrupted me, I was speaking about like our media. You don't want to talk about them. You kind of do both of those. Before you kind of interrupted me, I was speaking about like our media representation, which we know is one-sided, and that's evolving around artificial whiteness. It's the ideology that's embedded in the concepts of like AI and where you get your statistics. The media and what we're talking about right now, it mimics the logic of white supremacy. It's very Eurocentric and masculinist, but I get it. That's where you get your information from. But again, it's one-sided. Doesn't add value to this conversation. But I'll let my plane because I know real people understand.
Let me ask her a question to test her logic. If you mind yielding the floor to me, Pearl, I would just want to test her logic.
No, I was going to respond to her.
Okay, sure. Go ahead. Because I just want to test the logic. It sounded nonsensical, but go ahead.
No, so the reason
Yeah, you got to think Cooley's with a white woman, so he might say a few things about white people, but he's not going to go all the way in. He's with a white woman, so he's compromised. Now, I know some brothers who are with white women, but they still stand on business. They don't bite their tongue. But unfortunately, you got a lot of brothers like Cooley he might say something here and there about white folks, but he's not going to put fire to their feet. He's not really going to do that. Because you have to understand that he has a white woman and a white family at home. He has a white family at home. So he can only speak about black issues so much. Cooley got a whole white family at home, man. I just got to be honest with you.
I know she said that I forgot what she said about the facts, data, and statistics, but my opinion on facts, data, and statistics is they can be helpful. However, you do need to take them with a grain of salt because you will be easily manipulated if anybody can put a study in front of you and you automatically believe the study. So that's my opinion on it. I think I've interviewed 1,000 people and I found that what you see in real life with your eyes is the most accurate. So you can take that or leave it. I understand other people have different opinions. And that kind of goes back to the good nature. Again, you can say like, white people, you have nothing to complain about. Black people don't take advantage of your good nature. But if enough white people have that same experience, which a lot of us have had, you can't gas.
Yeah, shout out to Royalty. Like Cooley's, he's cool with Pearly Things. That's his friend. And on top of that, he got a white wife and a white family at home. Now, he'll tell you, I don't have a white wife. You got children with that woman. Y'all live together. That's your wife, boy. That's your wife. You planted a seed in her. She already came with white children. You got a whole white family at home, bro. That is your wife. Don't gaslight us by telling us she's not my wife. Yes, she is. You got a whole white family at home and you're friends with Miss Pearly Things. Stop it.
But if enough white people have that same experience, which a lot of us have had, you can't gaslight us into not feeling it. Like, for example, I hired somebody and I got a camera stolen from me. Hired a black person, hired another black person. They said I had a colonial mindset. And basically called me.
Yeah, Cooley wifed up a white single mother. To be honest, Cooley wifed up a white single mother. He did. Now, if you a black man, you got a white woman, but you still stand on black business, okay, fine. But Cooley's not one of them, right? Cooley likes to Cooley is a fence straddler. He's a fence straddler. 1 minute he'll try to say this for blacks, then he'll try to say something in favor for whites. But what he's going to tell you, well, I'm just being fair and balanced. That's what he's going to tell you. Well, I'm just being fair and balanced, so I have to criticize blacks and whites.
And I had it stolen from me. Hired a black person, hired another black person. They said I had a colonial mindset. And basically me a racist at the time, even though I doubled their subscribers. And it's like, we offer opportunity after opportunity, and it's not all. Some of my best employees have also been black, but I just haven't had the same experience. And me.
Cooley wifed up a white single mother with 2 children. Now, hey, that's not me talking crap about him. It's just the truth. So if you're watching this, Cooley, don't get mad at me. I'm just telling the truth. You wifed up a white single mother. She had 2 children when you met her. Right? Now, I'm just being real. The truth can never be disrespectful.
Personally, I've interviewed 1,000 people across countries, and I've also hired every single race. Like there's no race I haven't hired. So there's patterns and things that you have when dealing with black people that you don't with other races. And, you can pretend it's not real, but real life experience.
Just like there's patterns. When you deal with white people, you're going to notice patterns as well. There's patterns with everybody. If you deal with Mexicans, you're going to notice there's patterns with them. If you deal with Asian people, you're going to notice their bad habits and their patterns. Right? You're going to notice that with all races. College campuses, elementary schools, at all. My fault. I wasn't trying to go. I was trying to go to this other clip. My fault on that one. See, it kind of threw everything off. Damn, I had it queued up, but I hit the wrong button. Let's go back here. Make sure that you guys bless the like button. It ain't nothing. Bless the like button, man.
On your personal experience, you continue to center yourself. You spoke about employing Black people. The majority of white people in America are laborers. They do not employ anybody. They are employed. So therefore, you speaking about your experience as an employer is quite literally antidotal to you and the minority.
Yeah, I don't think that is fair, Pearl, that you make it seem like a person's response has to coincide with what is palatable for certain demographics. If somebody responds with passion, that's their right. If they're not throwing hands or
right, just because a white person hires you doesn't mean that they like you. Donald Sterling, think he owned the Clippers. He got caught saying all type of crazy things about Black people. There's a lot of, listen, just because a white person gives you a job, that doesn't mean that they like you. A lot of times they do that just so that they don't look. A lot of times they hire Black people because they don't want people to look at their company like they're racist. So they say, oh, well, we'll bring a few Blacks in because we don't want people calling us racist. So we'll tolerate a few Black. We don't like them, but we'll tolerate them. For the purpose of people not calling us racist, we'll bring in a few Blacks. So don't for 1 second think that they like you because they hire Black folks.
Maybe trying to be overly offensive, in my opinion. I don't think that's an issue because you compared a lot of times that as a white woman, you're not triggered. Well, that's your personal choice. If someone gets triggered by something that is being presented to them, I think they have the room for that. When they start getting disrespectful, then that's different. But your comparisons to me are very bleak. People typically focus on very limited experiences and then expound upon it and make it conclusional. And I don't think that that's fair. White people don't spend enough time around Black people to, in my opinion, gather the real life experience that is the vast majority. So if you have one isolated incident or maybe even a dozen, and then you compare it to how old that person is, all these other variables, that's what we're trying to get you to understand. You, in my opinion, you can't form a hard conclusion. And I think that sometimes maybe people like yourself, maybe people that belong to, your class per se, they typically try to focus on what they believe to be behavior. And then not having the skill set, in my also opinion, to be able to engage and dismantle some of these interactions. What I've noticed is that there's petty crime and then there's organized crime. White people typically are organized with their crime. They will set up contracts. They will set up whole agendas to thieve from talent and from individuals, and then make it seem like it's okay because that.
See, Black people rob you with a gun. White people rob you through legal paperwork. You know what I'm saying? Like steal your land. It was this white guy in Texas who stole his house from a lady, and it was her grandmother's house. She had to go through court just to get the house back. So Black people rob you with a gun. White people rob you with legal paperwork, right? They embezzle money. They commit fraud. They commit white collar crimes. They rob you with legal paperwork. That is how white people rob you. So at the end of the day, they're robbers and thieves. They are robbers and thieves themselves. They're not just like, they're not going to use, for the most part. I'm not saying that some white people won't pick up a gun, but for the most part, white people don't use guns to rob you. They rob you, the legal way. Trick you up out of your land. You signed something in some paperwork and you didn't realize that you signed your life away. You don't realize that you signed your rights away. So white people rob you the legal way. They commit fraud. They embezzle money as well. So it ain't all legal. But hey, you get the point.
individual, those group of people may not be privy to how things truly work. So I think that the fact that you make it seem like, oh, well, we're not that bad. It's not a bad or a good.
Ooh-wee. Ooh-wee.
That I'm having, because I see white people have attitude, and I see some that are pleasant. I see some that are thieves. I see some that are not. It's, this is a human type of situation. I think Cooley tried to set that up. It's like, please explain to us in your experience where you see this happening on a regular basis. And I asked you a question: how do you quantify a black man being more violent? You would have to start at the exception of every male born, and then track their life.
Y'all can't hear me? Hopefully y'all can hear me, man. You said, Red, check the audio. Hopefully y'all can hear me, man. Can y'all hear me good? Put a 1 in the chat if you can hear me just fine.
Because I can tell you, being a brother, most brothers are not violent. Most brothers can't even fight. Most men can't fight. They don't even, own the copyright of martial arts being something that is a discipline, but also is tied to knowing how to strike and knowing how to defend oneself. So for you to make blatant statements, I think is very disingenuous. I would like to have a conversation where we can hopefully grow and learn some stuff, but the attacks are not necessary, in my opinion. And I land.
Okay, so can I respond? Cool. All right. So again, Black people do have the right to be past talk, but we also have the right to be fatigued. So it can be very fatiguing when, it's a little bit rude. Just my opinion.
And we have the right to have white fatigue, right? Nobody has gotten away with more violent crimes in this country than white folks. And if you don't believe me, study the history of this country. You ain't got to take my word for it. Nobody has gotten away with more violent crimes than whites in this country. Absolutely nobody. Nobody has gotten away with fraud more than white people. Like I say, white people rob you with legal contracts. White people rob you with legal paperwork. Now, they, like I say, they embezzle money, they commit fraud, and they steal too, but peep game.
You can take it or leave it. Black people do commit more crimes. I think it's very obvious with the crime rate. The fact that you're kind of uneasy generally when you're in a Black area, you're much more likely to have someone commit a crime. And a third of Black men have felonies. So, I mean, I don't even know why we're arguing that point. Like, it's very obvious that Black people.
You said a third of Black men have felonies. Wow. Oh.
People commit more violent crime. Like, I'm not going to gaslight you about the very obvious that Black people commit more violent crime. Like, I'm not going to gaslight you about the liberal white women. Like, can't we just be real here for like 2 seconds?
If you add in per capita, we can have an honest
disagree.
conversation. If you add in per capita, we
Fine, say per capita. Fine.
You did not, but you said commit per
I know, but see, that's bad faith.
Fundamentally do not. That would not be the case.
It's like it never ends.
You continue to speak on your personal experience. You continue to center yourself. You spoke about employing Black people. The majority of white people in
Yeah, anti-Black content is easy. All you got to do is read a bunch of stats. You don't need talent. You don't need to have a personality. Just read off a bunch of stats, and then you'll get 1 million subscribers as a white person. And pulling up stats, that's lazy content. Anybody can pull up stats to try to make a point. And most of these white conservatives, most of these white people who make this anti-Black content, all they do is talk about stats all day. That is lazy content. Well, the stat says that 80% of Blacks does this. The stat says that 75% of Blacks do that. You know, that old goofy type of stuff. No creativity. I'll just read stats about Black folks all day. Yeah, I'll make content about that. I'll use stats to back up the fact that I don't like Blacks. I'll just read off stats all day. Yeah. Sounds pretty good, dude. Yeah, dude. I make content every day, dude. And I have my stats to prove that Blacks are violent criminals, bro. I just read off stats all day with my content, dude.
America are laborers. They do not employ anybody. They are employed. So therefore, you speaking about your experience as an employer is quite literally antidotal to you and the minority. The majority of people are not out here hiring people. So
that's not true, though. That's not what I said.
And another thing that I know about you, like you're.
Listen, that's easy work. I'm not saying that you can't ever look up stats, but when all of your content is just based on reading stats, then anybody can do that. Anybody can Google some stats, but that's not authentic content because we all know that a lot of those numbers are false. You know what I mean? A lot of those numbers are just false. Sometimes you got to look at the stats and then compare that to personal experiences, and not just your own personal experiences. Compare that to everybody you know. Ask them about their experience and then look at the numbers. Then you're going to say, okay, something isn't adding up, because she tell you that 1/3 of black men are criminals. But if you meet 100 black men right now, there's going to be a ton of black men who ain't never been to jail, who ain't got no felonies. But if you're judging it, who's the biggest criminal in this country? Who's a bigger criminal than a white man in this country? Nobody. Nobody has gotten away with more violent crimes than a white man in this country. Nobody has gotten away with doing all these wicked things and stealing land and colonizing. Nobody has gotten away with that stuff like the white man has. Not in America, not in the United States of America. Not talking about Europe. I'm not talking about Africa.
Like your family is wealthy, have any experience with, I was in a white neighborhood and the black people moved in. You didn't talk to the black people, sweetie. You did not talk to the black people. You were not around the black people.
Oh, that's
you
not
you are making it up.
Okay.
That's why it's hard to listen to you, because I would like you to say something that's founded in fact and not just your feelings. I do understand, like, you want to embody the ideology of a feminine woman, but please try to practice some stoicism and speak on some kind of facts. Like, use some numbers. You threw out a bunch of statistics from the FBI, then turned around and said, I don't trust statistics, and then spoke specifically about your experience as soon as your statistics from the FBI was debunked. So, like, what we're seeing here is that you're pivoting and you're continuously trying to do this to move us from the point of the argument. But the point of the argument is black fatigue based in something more than just pearly things experience.
Well, it wouldn't just be my experience, because there's a ton of people online talking about theirs too. Ton of white people are talking about their experience with black people. This is not just me.
And you know what the white people say when we talk about what the whites have done to us in this country? You guys need to stop pretending to be victims. Lace up your bootstraps and get out there and get it, man. Make it happen, man. See, this is how white people gas you. This is how whites gaslight you. When they want to talk about black fatigue, nobody ever says stop crying. We listen to what they got to say and then we debunk what they say. But when black people talk about what the whites have done to us and what we have experienced in this country, white people say, y'all need to stop pretending to be victims. Slavery was 200 years ago. Jim Crow was over 100 years ago. And Jim Crow was not 100 years ago, but they'll gaslight you. Slavery was 200 years ago. You blacks need to stop pretending to be victims. That's what they say anytime you hold them accountable. Anytime you hold a white person accountable, they're going to tell you to stop pretending to be a victim. When they cry about white fatigue all day, they feel like they have the right to complain about it. They feel like they have the right to cry about it. They're hypocrites.
I don't really understand that.
But Pearl, real quick, by that logic, we have to say that there's a ton of black people speaking about all the systematic oppression and everything from
I gotta
white
finish
people.
Cooley. I gotta finish Cooley.
Just logic.
But you just interrupted everybody on the panel, though.
Because everyone's talking to me. So
we're talking about a topic.
Hold on, y'all.
That's fair. Yeah, let her land her plane. That's my mistake. Go ahead, Pearl.
See, God, I see. I kind of forgot. So this is why I try to get going. But wait, hold on. I forgot what you said. Sorry. Yeah. Please. Yeah, I'm trying to.
I'm gonna go ahead and switch it up a little bit. How much of today's behavior comes from history like slavery and Jim Crow?
Yeah, so you mind if I speak on this a little bit real quick? Because I was gonna ask a question to Miss Pearl and then also Pearl, because Pearl says something like, well, I see a lot of things on social media.
Damien said Mexicans are the best at everything. I think that's the biggest joke that I've heard all day. If Mexicans were so great, how come they don't just fix Mexico to make Mexico a better place? I mean, if Mexicans are so great at everything, how come they can't fix their country so that they don't have to flee their country and come over here? He's just trolling, though. We can't take him serious. He's just trolling. Make sure that you guys bless the like button.
Yeah, and a lot of whites are complaining. If using that logic, you would have to be logically consistent and say, well, since black people are always speaking about, the past history of, white people enslaving us and Jim Crow and everything like that, then that must have some legitimacy to it as well, right? This if we're being logically consistent. But anyways, to answer your question, you said, how much does the past history have to do with today? Do I have
How
that
much
right?
of today's behavior, and I'm going to drop the timer down to 2 minutes. We got to get some other folks in, y'all, because some of the same people talking. How much
I
of
got you. I'll
today's
make it clean and
behavior comes
concise.
from history like slavery and Jim Crow?
Yeah, so I would say not too much, but it depends on the person. So if you think about what depression is dwelling on the past. And if you're dwelling on the past too much, you can find yourself in a state of rumination. And if you're in that state of rumination, it's very hard for you to overcome and move forward and to grow when you find yourself in that state of rumination. I think that currently a lot of black people, when they say things like, oh, well, systematic oppression, we were oppressed in the past, those black people are weak-minded, feminine black people, and they're relying that all of their—
Shut up, Cooley. See, let me add some context to this. Acknowledging the past doesn't mean that you're complaining about it all the time. See, when white people talk about America, we have to show them the mirror. We have to talk about what they did in this country. We got to talk about history, because white people will pretend like they never did anything wrong. So we're forced to show them, hold on, you did this and you did this. After slavery, you practiced Jim Crow for 100 years. So if anybody's effeminate, it is you, Cooley. It's not effeminate to talk about the history of this country. That doesn't make you effeminate to bring up the history of this country. But then again, why do we listen to Cooley? Cooley don't have a dog in this fight. Cooley got a whole white family at home. He got 2 white stepkids that he's raising. Yeah. So who wants to hear what Cooley has to say about black and white issues? Cooley ain't gonna stand on business when it comes to black and white issues. Cooley needs to stick to those relationship conversations. Who's a masculine man? Who's a unruly woman? Stick to those conversations. Cooley is not to be taken serious in race relation conversations. He's not.
People, and they're relying that all of their thought process is focusing on the past. So they're actually in a state of rumination, just like how a depressed person.
Let me show you how Cooley is full of it. You got black people who get up and go to work every day, but anytime there's a conversation about racism and we start talking about history, yes, it's cool to bring up what happened in this country. We're not going to ignore history just because it bothers some people. We're not going to ignore history just because it bothers some people. We're not going to do it. Not at all. You're not going to gaslight us to get us to stop talking about the history of this country. You're not going to do it. If white people can mention the things that they don't like about us, if they can mention the things that they don't like about us, surely we can mention the things that we don't like about them.
And now one last question for you, Pearl. What point does history play a part today? Give me a time frame that we can start referencing, since nothing matters to you.
Okay. That was
Let me add some context to that. Now, if you were just talking about slavery every day and you didn't do nothing, you wasn't doing anything to be productive, then yes, that could be a major problem. But we're talking about productive, intelligent black people who have conversations about race relations in this country. Acknowledging the history of this country doesn't make you degenerate, doesn't make you effeminate. don't mean that you're speaking from a position of victimhood when you're just simply acknowledging the history of this country. Don't let these people gaslight you. Don't let them gaslight you. They want black people to shut up and stop talking about Jim Crow and slavery. That's what they want. White people want to pretend like it never happened. If whites had it their way, they would literally erase slavery and Jim Crow from the history of this country if they could. Because they get so offended when you talk about it, then they'll gaslight you by saying, you need to stop pretending to be a victim. Slavery was 300 years ago. You're no victim. But when white people talk about their issues with black folks and black fatigue, nobody ever tells them to stop crying about black fatigue. We need to start saying the same thing that they say, hey, stop crying. You're talking about black fatigue. You guys have never been oppressed. You never went through Jim Crow. Stop crying about black fatigue because you haven't went through nothing. The average white person is not affected by anything that black people do because most white folks don't even live around black people. So when they get on the internet complaining about some stuff that doesn't affect them directly, they are crybabies.
Answer that question?
That was a lot of points.
You gonna answer that question?
All of them. But if you didn't give me the attitude, we keep doing it.
Give you the attitude.
Pearl.
See, they do so many different points. It's very tough to address sometimes.
Just answer that question. You ain't gotta answer everything. Just answer the last question. What period of history should we start taking into account to evaluate the current time?
I think as an adult, you're responsible for your actions. None.
You didn't just answer. I agree with you, but can you answer? I'll just ask you a question because I just ask sweet respectfully. I agree with you. That's a great point. I just want to know so I can know how to deal with you. At what point in history can we start? Can we use to refer to our current paradigm? Do we stop at the 50s? Like what time frame is relevant? Is relevant to you that we can use to apply to our modern day situation?
It's not relevant.
How much of today's behavior comes from history like slavery and Jim Crow?
Yeah, so I would say not too much, but it depends on a person. So if you
Cooley is not the guy for this conversation. He's just not the guy for this conversation at all. Cooley needs to stick to relationship conversations. He needs to stick to debates with 304s and OnlyFans chicks. Right? He's not fit for these race-related conversations. He's not. Cooley is raising 2 white children that are not his. That is a known fact. I listen. I respect Cooley when I'll listen to Cooley when he talks about relationship stuff. You know, because that's his lane right there. That's his lane. But race relation conversations, clearly this is not his lane at all. No.
think about what depression is. Depression is, dwelling on the past. And if you're dwelling on the past too much, you can find yourself in a state of rumination. And if you're in that state of rumination, it's very hard for you to overcome and move forward and to grow when you find yourself in that state of rumination. I think that currently a lot of Black people, when they say things like, oh, well, systematic oppression, we were oppressed in the past, those Black people are weak-minded, feminine Black people, and they're relying that all of their thought process is focusing on the past. So they're actually in a state of rumination, just like how a depressed person would be in a state of rumination. It's very similar. I think that mental state, Black people need to overcome that. It's pitiful. It's the saddest thing that I see from my Black people. And I'll be honest, I used to be in that state of the victim mindset and thinking about the past, but that's something that we all have to overcome.
Well, I know history, right? But we don't know exactly when. Just like these incomplete numbers that I have been hearing that are directed toward my people. Those numbers are a direct result of history and the state of the Black community right now, because if you take away someone's ability to be self-sustaining, then they are going to commit a crime. And a lot of the crimes that we commit are proximity crimes. So this fake narrative that is being painted that we are out here trying to get these napkin-colored people, we are not. We largely commit those crimes in our own community, just like they commit.
Right. The crimes we commit crimes in our own community. most white people, they're not even affected by black crime like that. 90% of white people are not affected by the crimes that black people commit. So they're just using this as talking points. They're not even affected by the crimes that we commit. Because for the most part, when black people commit crimes, we're committing them against one another. 90% of the times we're committing these crimes against other black people. White people are not affected by the crimes we commit as black people for the most part. Charlie Kirk was never, let me tell you something about Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk never been victimized by a black criminal a day of his life. But all he wanted to talk about was black criminality, just so that he can get unalived by his own people. So when you see these white people talking about black fatigue, they don't even live around black people like that. They're not affected by the crimes that black people commit because black folks are too busy victimizing one another. It's the same for white folks. When a white person gets unalived, 90% of the time, another white person did it. When a white person gets unalived, 90% of the time, it's another white person who did it. Who tried to assassinate Donald Trump on multiple attempts? A white man. Who unalived Charlie Kirk? A white man. So the white man is the biggest threat to himself. It ain't just black men. Yes, black men, we pose a major threat to one another. I'll admit that. But listen, the biggest threat to a white man in America is another white man. When black men commit crimes, for the most part, we don't have white folks on our mind. We don't. These are crimes. These are proximity crimes. Black people commit proximity crimes. So when they commit crimes, 90% of the time, they are victimizing one another. It's rare that white folks are even affected by the crimes we commit. They're gaslighting you.
Like horrible atrocities in their own community as napkin colored people. So history plays a large part, the economy plays a large part, and racism plays a large part in what happens in our community. When you put people in a desolate situation, when you put them in the projects, that creates hostility, that creates desperation, that creates people who are going to get it however they can. And so that's what I mean by internalized oppression. You are believing, you drank the Kool-Aid and you hate your own people for reacting to a system that they were put in, and the system that still is going, that still is functioning. When I tell you that thing get an oil change every 3 months, it's going.
Shout out to Ruben for the Cash App. Shout out to Desmond Hill for the Cash App.
It ain't stopped going. They keep that thing maintained, oiled up, and ready to go. So to say that history plays no part, and just because we have melanin in our skin, that makes us.
Well, Cooley is a fool. He don't qualify to have these conversations. Like I said, a lot of that wealth that whites got from slavery, these companies and corporations are still around today. So white people today still benefit from slavery because Wells Fargo got their money from slavery. JP Morgan got their money from slavery. A lot of banks a lot of these banks and institutions, a lot of these companies and corporations, a lot of them got wealthy from slavery. So we can't say what happened yesterday has no effect on what's going on today. That's telling a bold-faced lie. That's white people trying to escape accountability, and Cooley's going to do everything in his power to help white folks escape accountability. He said talking about history makes you effeminate. No, acknowledging the history of this country does not make you effeminate. For you to say that, anyway, let's move on.
Some beautiful ass people, moisturized too, and unwrinkled 45. We have to pay the price for something that someone else created, and then we have to get someone up here that is that is spewing skewed numbers, incomplete, not skewed, incomplete numbers at us.
I think Jim Crow and slavery is like the low-hanging fruit. I heard Cooley say, you know, people looking to the past is weak. I think looking to the past, it can be weak, but everybody in the world does it.
So we're gonna just talk about, because you just said slavery, I'm gonna just say the 20th century, right? So in the 20th century, we have redlining. I was there, so we can talk about the GI Bill exclusion, discriminatory lending practices, hiring discrimination prevented Black families from acquiring assets at the same rate as white people. So that means today, the typical white family has 6 to 8 times the wealth of the typical Black family. This gap is directly connected to policies that blocked assets accumulation from the 1860s all the way to 1975. Okay, if you want to talk about neighborhoods, housing, and segregation, racial zoning began in 1910 to 1930. We weren't even able to be in suburbs to 1960. Okay, so most American metropolitan segregation today still matches those redliners as well as the schools. The schools still remain segregated. I'm from Fort Worth, Texas. So modern segregation is not accidental. It was purposely done, and it's just a racist policy. If we want to go into the criminal justice system, from 1970 to 1990, because we're talking about the 20th century, the war on drugs, mandatory minimums, crack versus cocaine, powder versus rock. Y'all know what I'm talking about. This targeted
Systemic racism practiced by white folks for centuries in this country. But Pearlie is going to pretend like it doesn't have any effect on what's going on today. She can't say that it didn't happen. So, but her way to downplay it is to pretend like it don't have an effect on what's going on today. Well, that happened, but it has no effect on what's going on today. So that happened 300 years ago. That's what white people say to gaslight you. When they want you to stop talking about slavery, when they want you to stop talking about Jim Crow, when they want you to stop talking about systemic racism.
All Black communities, policing has been historically been concentrated in low income, because you like to talk about our neighborhoods, segregated neighborhoods, which created policies, not behavior. So they just, all of that. Criminal justice disparities from a mix of historical racial control systems and ongoing policy decisions that still affect us today. So over policing, under investments go hand in hand. Black Americans are more likely to be arrested and receive harsher sentences than white people. Should I continue? Is my time up, Pearl?
Shout out to my man Scoop. Scoop said we should never feel bad for reminding them of the horrific atrocities the soap-colored people did to us. We will never let y'all rest. Shout out to Scoop. Right. We're gonna remind them every time white folks start acting brand new, you remind them of the history of this country. But like I said, if it was up to white folks, white people would literally erase slavery and Jim Crow out of the history books if they could. If they could, they would, and pretend like it never happened.
Go ahead.
Well, she broke it down, so I don't really have to expound upon slavery and Jim Crow, because I think, like Pearl like to use words like obvious. I think it's obvious, what happened to Black people. But when I deal with history, the reason I look at history is not to play victim, but to show you a pattern of behavior. See, a lot of white people are talking about post-affliction behaviors that our people show, post-crack, post-redlining, post-civil rights movement, post-slavery, post all this interference from you. Of course, you want to see a lot of dysfunction, but they never want to deal with who we were before that, because if they would do that, you would see probably the most exceptionally behaved people, like, have you ever seen? Like, you like to talk about decorum, but like I said earlier, we were murdered when we were behaving at our best. So it was our issues with Europeans were never based on behavior, because if that's the case, then how do you explain the past? that happened to black people from white people were from people who were unbeknownst to even happening, let alone behave in a certain way. So when you talk,
I like how he broke that down, because I've been saying this. White people hatred for us has nothing to do with our behavior. When black people were docile and went to church and was singing, "Wade in the water, children, wade in the water." You know, when black people was going to church and singing that, you still firebombed their churches. You still lynched them. And there was no such thing as ghetto thug culture back then, and white people still hated us. So don't let them gaslight you. The hatred that white folks have for us has nothing to do with our behavior. History proves it.
Talking to you, Pearl, what stats can we bring up? Because if we bring up stats to defend our argument, they don't count. Only your stats matter. Only your information matter. That energy, that pathology alone shows you the elitist mindset that there's nothing we can do to change it, because there's nothing we can do to change your mind. No information matters. But at the end of the day, since y'all been on the planet, and I got some cool, good white people, but at the end of the day, since y'all been on the planet, it's a bloody trail of violence. And then now that we're at this point, you're seeing the side effects of dealing with you guys for so long. You have the audacity to be surprised when we do each other dirty. We're not even doing nothing to white folks. All the things that we're doing is to each other. We internalizing this problem. We're not scandalizing your stuff. We're killing each other. We're beating each other up. We're disrespecting each other. We're talking to each other. But let me finish. You're gonna get your chance to reply. But at the end of the day, everything that we're involved in that's negative, there's a white dollar, a white CEO, a white hand in it. Now, if you're just absolving yourself from all our issues, then you have the right to say, hey, but everything that's negative about us is a paper trail that goes to a funding or an okay by somebody that looks like you. And now one last question for you, Pearl. At what point does history play a part today? Give me a time frame that we can start referencing, since nothing matters to you.
Okay. That was a lot.
You gonna answer that question?
That was a lot of points.
You gonna answer that question?
All of them.
All right, so we're gonna let Pearl.
I would love it if you didn't give me the attitude, but you can keep doing it.
Give me the attitude.
Okay. Pearl. I'm gonna give you 1 minute and 30 seconds to respond, and we're gonna go ahead and get to Amir. All right.
Okay. So see, they do so many different points. It's very tough to address so many times.
No, he was very specific. He said, "Why don't you address this point?" He made a few points, but he said, "Address this one."
Okay, so the original question was about slavery, right? It was about what does the past affect the now.
Well, I was gonna let you respond to him. Otherwise, I gotta go to.
Just answer that question. You ain't gotta answer everything. Just answer the last question. What period of history should we start taking into account to evaluate the current time?
I think as an adult, you're responsible for your actions. None.
You didn't just answer. I agree with you. But
We already know that. We got black people in prison for the crimes they committed, so they're held accountable for their actions. Pearlie is not smart. She's just saying a lot of dumb stuff. Black people get held accountable for their actions all the time. We're only 13 to 14% of the population, but we make up a huge percentage of the prison population. We're only 13 to 14% of this whole nation, but yet we represent a large percentage of the prison population, which means we are held accountable for the things we do. Stop the gaslighting.
I'm just asking you a question because I'm just sweet, respectfully. I agree with you. That's a great point. I just want to know so I can know how to deal with you. At what point in history can we start? Can we use to refer to our current paradigm? Do we stop at the 50s? Like what time frame is relevant to you that we can use to apply to our modern day?
Yeah, man. Hit the like button. It ain't nothing. Hit the like button. It ain't nothing. It ain't nothing. It ain't nothing.
Quite literally, in 2025, we experienced gerrymandering in 2 states.
Make sure that you guys bless the like button.
Texas a few months ago, and last week in North Carolina. This is something that is still happening today. They have restructured.
Don't forget Jackson, Mississippi.
Correct. They've restructured the seats to be able to boot Black Democrats out of the seats and get white conservatives in. This is something that is structurally still affecting Black Americans, Black people in America today. It's a part of everything that we do.
Segregation. We were talking about segregation. With segregation, I've seen a lot of Black people online say that they were better off when they were segregated, or saying that they would rather be segregated, that they don't want to be integrated with whites because it causes that imbalance where they either feel like they're treated inferior or they feel like they're treated with racial bias and so on and so forth. There have been people calling for segregation again because they're tired of feeling that they are discriminated against because of their race. But the good thing about America is that, in my view, America holds the majority or the most Black billionaires in the world. And the good thing about America is that in this country, we aren't held to our ancestors' class. Like in India, you can't get above your class in one generation. Here in America, in one generation, you can go from poor to rich. So I understand that there's a lot of talk about history and what happened.
Shout out to School. School said they're clan sisters. They are their clan sisters. As long as we continue to breathe and exist, they will continue to put systems in place to harm anyone of this skin tone. They will never change. Shout out to Scoop for the super chat. Now that is realer than rap.
And then everything was bad, but in this country, it's so unique. You can't do it in any other country. You can move up in one generation. There's no need to be held to your ancestors or wherever they were or however they were treated.
See, the reason why I can't take them serious, they didn't go through anything. So it's easy for you to tell us, listen, it's not like slavery and Jim Crow happened and racism just disappeared. Racism didn't disappear after Jim Crow. It still exists today. A white boy in Buffalo, New York, shot up a whole grocery store full of Black folks. Tops grocery store in Buffalo, New York. That grocery store was in a Black community. It's still in a Black community. A white guy did this, and I ain't got to go back 40 years. This happened 2 years ago. Racism didn't go away when Jim Crow left. It still exists today. And I'm not saying that Black folks can't be successful because of racism, but we still have obstacles to get around. We still got to go through obstacles to become successful. Yes, we do. But it's mighty funny that somebody who's white that's never went through anything that we went through gonna tell us what we need to do to overcome, what we need to do to lace our bootstraps, and you don't have the experience. Your people never went through anything on this land. You guys haven't went through anything. I listen. I asked this question before, and I'm gonna ask it again. Can you name a struggle that whites in the United States of America have went through? Can you name one? Name a struggle that whites in this country have went through. They never been oppressed. They never went through Jim Crow. Black people, they never created laws to keep them out of jobs. We never created laws to stop them from reading. We never created jobs to stop them from educating themselves. Name a struggle that white folks in the United States of America have went through. Can you name one?
There's no other country, in my view, that gives Black Americans more opportunities than America. I don't see any other African nation giving more opportunities to Black people. I don't see any other European nations giving more opportunities to Black people than America. America is the land of the opportunities, and that's for every race. That's for all of us, not just one.
Okay.
They took the most from them too. They got to do it. Like, what?
I just want to say that we created those opportunities.
Hold on,
Nobody
Aisha.
gave them to us.
Aisha,
I just want to throw that out there. Sorry.
Right. She's not acknowledging what we had to go through to get those opportunities. White people didn't just say, we're just going to be fair to Black folks. Yeah, we're going to be fair. That's not what happened. You know how many Black people lost their lives fighting for civil rights? You know how many Blacks lost their lives trying to get up out of Jim Crow, trying to get up out of slavery? Tons of them, millions of them. They didn't just say, well, we're going to start being nice to Black people. No, we had to get in the middle of the streets and give them some pushback for the way that they was treating us. White people didn't wake up one day and say, you know, we'll start being nicer to black folks. That's not what happened. We had to fight for it. Everything that we got in this country, we had to literally fight for it. You know what I'm saying? This white woman act like white people just woke up one day and said, oh, you know, we're going to start being nice to blacks.
Go ahead, Freddie.
Well, you guys created the opportunities, and you guys should be the ones taking the most advantage of them.
Right. So when it comes to answering the question, how much of today's behavior come from history? Things in history like slavery and Jim Crow. It's not like those two things don't exist in a bubble, and they affect everything about us. When you break down epigenetics, that's a part of how we generational trauma is passed down. It's ingrained in us.
You're right, brother. He said they love selective history. Right. Shout out to Kobe Jivers. I don't know if I'm saying your name right, but yes, they love selective history. That's a fact.
Think about even the talk that black men have with their sons when they deal with police. Like, it is a part of our culture to make sure we understand how to navigate in these circumstances. It's a part of everything that we do. When you speak about crime, one of the biggest determinants on crime is socioeconomic status. And if 80% of the wealth gap is literally attributed to slavery and Jim Crow, then it would be assumed that the group of people that are at a disparity in that dynamic would then be the ones committing crime because they're experiencing the most poverty systemically, strategically. And we see those systemic structures still today. Quite literally in 2025, we experienced gerrymandering in 2 states, Texas a few months ago, and last week in North Carolina. This is something that is still happening today. They have restructured.
Jackson,
right. They pretend like racism just went away with Jim Crow. The nerve of these people. And the crazy part about it is they never went through any of this. Their people never went through any of this. None of this stuff has ever affected them in a negative way. We're talking about things that has affected us in a negative way for centuries in this country. You got a black student who just got hung at the HBCU University. Charlie Kirk, when Charlie Kirk was unalive, the HBCUs received all type of death threats from white supremacists. And we had nothing to do with the death of Charlie. We had nothing to do with the death of Charlie. But the HBCUs got to get all these death threats. And when these MAGA white boys show up to the university, we don't owe them anything. Why should we be welcome? Why should we be welcoming to a group of MAGA people when we just received a bunch of death threats from MAGA people after their hero Charlie Kirk lost his life? Their hero Charlie lost his life, and then they want to send us death threats. That's crazy.
Correct. They've restructured the seats to be able to boot black Democrats out of the seats and get white conservatives in. This is something that is structurally still affecting black Americans and black people in America today. It's a part of everything that we do. And I also want to point out something else too. When it comes to accountability, we say, let's be accountable for everything we do today. This system is set up to remove
Miss Pearly things, all she does is read stats all day because she doesn't have the knowledge firsthand. So she has to Google everything that she talks about. Pearly has to Google everything she talks about. She don't have the knowledge. She don't have the life experience. Her best friend is Google. Let me Google these stats.
Accountability from white men and white people in general. White women have been arming and protecting their men by scapegoating black people for centuries, black men specifically for centuries. White men have been able to get away with all types of sexual crimes and atrocities because they've been able to blame black men for it. If you think about the case of George Stinney, a child, 80 plus pounds, who was put to the chair because he was accused of raping and unaliving 2 young girls who were his size. That was the white man that did that. Did they ever catch him? No, they didn't. So they have been able to scapegoat Black people for centuries, remove accountability from themselves for centuries. Y'all have been
Right.
able to do that. These men have been roaming.
Remove accountability from themselves and point the finger at us. Nobody has gotten away with more violent crimes in this country than white people, mainly white men. So when they talk about accountability, they're the last people who need to talk about accountability. Nobody has committed more violent crimes in this country than a white man and got away with it. No other race have gotten away with more violent crimes than a white man. So you want to talk about accountability? Are you crazy? The system has always protected white folks, especially when they harmed us. White people had a whole system to protect them when they unalived us or harmed us. And most of the time, they were never brought to justice, which means they were never held accountable for their violent actions towards us. What you talking about, Willis?
When you think about Ted Bundy, BTK, all these people, 30 plus years roaming around, taking out white women all over, just taking them out all over the country without any kind of accountability. Why? Because they come from a small town, and who would have ever assumed everyone leaves their house, their doors open? Because we're only afraid of the Tyrones and the Pookies and the Ray Rays. Nobody's thinking about the Chads and the Brads that are out there taking people out. So the fact of the matter is that when you talk what shapes today, everything about slavery, about Jim Crow, about Reconstruction, about systemic racism shapes what we do today. I am not saying, and to Ila's point, and I cannot believe I'm agreeing with Ila.
You believe
But listen, this is not to remove accountability. If you work in tech, if you work in HR, if you work in sales, if you work in medicine, you understand root cause analysis. You get to the root cause to find the solution.
All right, Cooley, I'm gonna switch it up. I got another question I'll put into play. Do you think some people hide behind history to dodge accountability?
Do I think people hide behind history to dodge accountability? I would say, yeah, this definitely happens. People do hide behind history to, dodge accountability. We see this with Black people today. It kind of alludes to what I said before, and I'll expound on the point a little bit more so you guys can understand. I think that history is very important, super important. I think that memories are super important, right? Memories and history, all of this is important, but it's only important if it's utilized to extract out lessons learned. You don't utilize memories to dwell and become a victim.
See, this is why I hate when people try to sound smart, but then they say dumb things. What we're saying is this woman just told you that she's educated. She has an education. She's educated herself. She has a decent job. She's not sitting around acting like a victim all day. She's acknowledging the history of this country, and she's holding white people accountable for the things that they did to us. So it's mighty funny that you talk about accountability, but when Blacks talk about history, you're just talking about history from a position of victimhood. No, we're reflecting on the history of this country. We're not speaking from a position of victimhood. We're just holding white people accountable for what they did. But I know you don't want to hold white people accountable for anything, Cooley. You got a whole white family at home and 2 white children that ain't yours. So why would we expect him to hold white folks accountable for anything?
You don't utilize history to dwell and become a victim. You utilize memories in history to extract out lessons learned, and that's what Black people truly haven't been doing. If they knew anything about
what did you mean? What do you mean that's what we haven't been doing? You know how many Black people are successful and doing good now? You think everybody is talking about history from the position of victimhood? You sound crazy, dude. What's wrong with this fool? See, this is what I said earlier in the show. Anytime we talk about slavery and Jim Crow, you know what white people say? And people like Cooley, you need to stop pretending to be a victim. I'm not pretending to be a victim. I'm just acknowledging history. I'm giving you historical facts. Well, Black people need to stop pretending to be a victim. Okay, tell white people to stop crying about, tell white folks to stop crying about Black fatigue. Stop crying. Stop pretending to be a victim, white people, and stop crying about Black fatigue. Most Black criminals don't even bother white people. Most Black criminals don't even bother white people. So what's the purpose in white people crying about Black fatigue all day? Oh, I get it. It makes money online. It's a money grab. It's a cash grab. That's why they talk about, that's why they cry about Black fatigue all day. There's a lot of money in that content. I'll just get on the internet and complain about black fatigue and bring up stats all day. Yeah, surely y'all make money.
Utilize memories and history to extract out lessons learned, and that's what Black people truly haven't been doing. If they knew anything about a history, they would know that taking handouts from the government, like SNAP, is not good for anything, good for the community, because you're going to be relying on the government forever. You need to get out there and build something for yourself. I think that when we look at the history of, Jim Crow, prior to Jim Crow, I think Pretty Intellectual was speaking about some stuff. We had Black Wall Street, Black people was building stuff. We were.
Listen, brothers, I got to be real. Cooley wiped up a white single mother who already had 2 white children. So can we really expect Cooley to stand on black business? No, we cannot. No, we just can't expect him to stand on black business. Cooley is raising 2 white stepchildren. I'm just being real with you. Now, I think he had a kid with her as well by now, but come on, Cooley. You ain't got no business in these race-related conversations.
Looking out for self. But then when, things, we started eating at white restaurants, stop funding our own restaurants and stuff like that. So we should utilize that history, those memories, extract out the lessons learned, know that they don't work for our community, and build some unity within our community. Look at the Jew. Look at the small hats. The small hats. Look at the small hats. They do it all the time, right? They got some unity over there. So stop looking at those white people and look at the other white people, because I truly think they all white. They all European. You get what I'm saying? So we look at those, see what they doing, and like, okay, all right, take some pointers from that. We need to build a community. We don't go against our community. We need ideology. We have no ideology within our culture. What's our true ideology with your?
We have ideology. Foundational Black Americans. You must separate before you elevate. Separate from white folks. Separate from tethers. Right? Separation is a must. So, yeah, man, this FBA movement is a beautiful thing. Now, being the FBA, that's our lineage, but at the same time, it is a movement online because we got a lot of Black people, FBA people, taking pride in who we are, taking pride in our culture, taking pride in our history. Even when you think about the terrible things that we went through, we still take pride in our culture. We still take pride in our history. That's what we do as foundational Black Americans. So there is an ideology behind being a foundational Black American. I mean, it's deeper than an ideology because it's lineage. But when you're an FBA and you're true to the game, you're gonna come with there's a certain mindset that's gonna come with that. You're gonna stand on business. And my thing is this. Anyway, man, I'm gonna let this dude finish. I'm gonna let this dude finish his point.
Some unity over there. So stop looking at those white people and look at the other white people, because I truly think they all white. They all European. You get what I'm saying? So we look at those, see what they doing, and like, okay, all right, take some pointers from that. We need to build a community. We don't go against our community. We need ideology. We have no ideology within our culture, or true ideology within Black culture. We don't have we adopt the white man's ideology. Christianity, truthfully, is not. I don't believe that, but a lot of people call that's the white man's ideology. I think that Christianity is for all, but I think that when we get away from
the white man manipulated Christianity, he just manipulated the words in the Bible to push his own agenda, and that's what white people did. So they rewrote the Bible and they twisted the Bible to push their wicked narrative, to push their wicked agenda. That's what they did. So white people found ways to manipulate the Bible, the word of God. Oh, yes, they did.
Our core principles, like a hierarchy, like a patriarch. When we get away from that, it becomes very detrimental to the Black.
Yeah, white people manipulated Christianity. That's all it was. You got to have enough common sense to know what it means for yourself and not go off of, and don't go off of what white people are telling you. Don't go off of the nonsense that whites been feeding you. Let's continue.
Family. We need some leadership. Things need to be organized, and only men have the capacity to bring order within the household and to bring order within the community.
Well, brothers and sisters, man, hey, man, we had a wonderful show, man. Wonderful, wonderful show. Shout out to Scoop. He said, I'll say it again. This FBA thing ain't for the weak. Shout out to my man, Scoop. This FBA thing is not for the weak. Tap on there and it should play upon the man, King Supreme, doing the damn thing. You know, we're going to continue to mash. We're going to continue to push forward. Oh, yes, you are tuned into one of the best in the game, King Supreme, every day, all day, baby. Now, listen, check it. This is my second show of the day. I'll try to do a third show. And when we do a third show, I'll drop the link and I'll make the third show like a panel. You know, if you guys are willing to pull up to speak, I'll make my third show a panel show. That's what I'll do. That's what we're going to do. That's how we operate. That is how we get down. Right? Shit, you know what I'm saying? I get around like James Brown up in this thing, you know? So peace to all of my people for pulling up. Shout out to everybody for blessing that super chat. More hypocrisy. We know where it's coming from. You know, saying what's up to all my people in the chat. Shout out to Bebo. Shout out to B-Box, the op. B-Box, the op. I appreciate you, man. He said, can we make sure he don't get in when we make it? Hey, man, shout out to B-Box, man, for the super chat. I appreciate you, brother, for the super chat. Yeah, man. So we're going to do a third show. I'll try to get a third show in, and we'll drop the link, and we'll bring some people up to speak. Hopefully it's not too late back east because it's still early out west. But I'll get back at you guys with some more content.